Welcome to Four Finger Discount. This week we are... Oh, hang on. Look at here on the Zoom chat. On the Zoom chat, I should say, Mr. Davis has lost his headphones.
Just one.
What a way to kick off season 16 of The Simpsons.
It's an omen, I tell you.
I feel like that was more exciting than anything we're going to see in this episode. No, it's actually pretty good. So this week we're here to review episode FAB F23. It is the premiere of season 16 of The Simpsons. It is Treehouse of Horror 15. I'm Dando.
I'm Guy. We're back, baby.
We didn't go anywhere, but we're back.
It's been a whole 7 days.
Yeah.
But yes, we're back with season 16, kicking it off as we always, well, not always do, but in fine style with a new season with a Treehouse of Horror. I think we always enjoy a bit of a Treehouse of Horror. Is that correct, Andy?
I think it's just the episodes where you can sort of just relax a bit. You don't have to really go too in depth with the reviews. You can have a bit of fun with them, a bit of banter, and we all love horror. So, it's always a good fun.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And look, 3 nice little stories this time around. Like you said, just easing our way in. It's like, no, this was good. This was fine. I had a couple of laughs. I wasn't egregiously offended or, totally pissed off by anything that anyone did or did not do. They got the job done this time around, and they got the job done well.
I thought the first segment, the Ned Zone, felt the most like classic Treehouse of Horror, but there was definitely elements of other classic moments throughout the other two as well. I did think the second one, though, the comedy for at least the first half of it relied too heavily on just taking the piss out of the English accent. I've
got that down as one of my favourite moments. Everyone who was doing a British accent seemed to really be enjoying it, and MVP of that is Julie Kavner, who just seemed to be really ripping into it.
Yeah.
Making an eel pie out of that accent. So, but you're right. And in terms of actual story, it's like, I suppose they're doing Jack the Ripper, and I guess, but
there wasn't really many jokes in there. It was just, how funny do English people speak? It's hilarious.
Yeah. They eat dreadful things.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm surprised they didn't do more with bad British teeth.
They didn't do that at all, did they, in that segment, the bad British teeth? They've already done the big book of British smiles, though. That's enough. That's enough. But you know what I enjoyed about this? The titles of each segment. I just thought, but can you explain to me how 4 beheadings and a funeral fits Jack the Ripper, besides the fact that it was an English movie?
How does it fit this story? Yeah, short answer, it doesn't really. I mean, no one got beheaded, and I don't think we saw any funerals.
No, I was so confused. But it was not great, this Treehouse of Horror, but it wasn't bad. It was just, and that's where I'm kind of concerned. I hope we're not getting into territory where it's just like, it was just there. I hope every episode's not just there. I want it to still entertain me. And this entertained me, but I just got to the end and went, well, that happened.
That zipped right through. It went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like, that was fine. It's half an hour I'll never get back. Nor is it half an hour that I feel like I've wasted.
No.
But, it's not like going to be saying, hey, remember that time I sat down that afternoon and watched Treehouse of Horror 15? Oh, good times. Great classic hits. Not really the case.
It pretty much sums up our sex life, right? not between yourself and I.
I was about to say, our sex life.
Sex lives.
Yes. To quote the great Offspring, you got to keep them separated.
Hey, my favorite.
What did you like about this Treehouse of Horror, Mr. Davis?
Well, as mentioned earlier, I did enjoy everyone enjoying doing British accents.
Okay, yep.
I thought that was a bit of fun. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I'm going to pick one from each segment, shall we say. But that's from 4 beheadings and a funeral. To rewind back a little bit, I've got to say, dying in a naked girl avalanche actually sounds kind of cool.
It does sound very good, yeah. And vice versa, dying in a naked man avalanche for a female. Or whichever way you bat, doesn't matter. Whichever you prefer.
Whichever way you swing.
Yeah.
And in Belly of the Boss, when the plot actually sort of kicked in after the inciting incident, I was like, oh, it's Inner Space or it's Fantastic Voyage.
Yep.
And then when Marge was in her skimpies, shall we say, her smalls, I was like, okay, it's definitely Fantastic Voyage because Raquel Welch in her prime starred in Fantastic Voyage in the late 60s, and I think everyone else is in like fairly cumbersome sort of spacesuits as they undertake their fantastic voyage. And Raquel Welch, having the fine figure of a woman that she had, was in something quite form-fitting, something ribald. So, yeah, seeing Marge in shape, so we say, I was like,
And then the white blood cells making it, eating away her clothes, but they always know just where to stop.
They do indeed.
Yeah.
So, yes, my favourite moments from the various segments of Treehouse of Horror 15. How about you, Dando?
Well, I really enjoyed, it's funny because I enjoyed the Ned Zone the most, but my favourite moments, none of them come from that. I've got a couple here. I liked the Simon Stulowitz. I'm going to be a movie star. You'll see.
I did like the voice. And I must admit, I've written down Stulowitz. Just like, what's all this about?
It's random, but I just enjoyed the voice for that, and I really liked when shit's going down and Burns' stomach just explodes, basically goes up, and he's like, "Well, that hurt like hell." But what did you think of the overall parodies? Because it sort of felt like they didn't really put much of a Simpsons spin on them. It just sort of felt like going through the motions almost.
Yeah, not really. They would,
the Ned Zone,
the
mostly.
Ned Zone is the one that really does it. And
Yeah.
as you said, 4 Beheadings at a Funeral is basically, okay, it's a Jack the Ripper story. We've got the Simpsons in there. You know, Lisa's kind of doing her know-it-all thing, but otherwise
she's meant to be Sherlock Holmes, but yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, no, there's not a whole lot to that. And yeah, in the belly of the boss, again, not very. It's just the Simpsons characters in a story that wouldn't usually have the Simpsons in it, but they're not being. I mean, Homer's being Homer because he's being a dumbass, but otherwise, not really.
The Futurama would do a far better parody of the Fantastic Voyage,
which I have yet to see. So.
Yes, and that's coming up on Tales of Futurama, available exclusively on the Four Finger Discount Patreon. If you are not a member of the Four Finger Discount Patreon, that is perfectly fine. We love each and every one of you, regardless of whether you're a patron or not. But if you do want to get exclusive access to the podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/fourfingerdiscount.
I thought you were about to say, if you're not a Four Finger Discount patron, go to hell.
No. No pressure.
Absolutely no pressure.
No,
enjoy the show.
Yes, we appreciate your support.
Next question. You there, eating the paste.
All right, it's now time for some trivia. But before then, as we were just mentioning about the Patreon, it's time to read out some $20 patron shout-outs here on the podcast. All right, so kicking off with... This season, we're going to kick off with... someone we've never kicked off with before. Let's go with Sean Davey. Sean Davey, our $20 patron of the week. Also, shout-outs...
Sean, hang on. In tribute to Treehouse of Horror 15... Shaun of the Dead Davey.
Shaun of the Dead Davey. There you go. So what I'm going to do is each week now, I'm going to pick a patron of the week, $20 patron of the week, and you're going to give them a name, a Halloween name. I know it's not going to be Halloween every week, but you're going to give them... Actually, it doesn't have to be Halloween. You can just give them a funny name, just the Guy Davis new name, and then you'll get that. So each week now, a new patron, new $20 patron is going to be the first one read out, the $20 patron of the week, and they're going to get an exclusive Guy Davis new name. What do you reckon about that, Mr. Davis?
That sounds just fine by me.
Alrighty. So, Shaun of the Dead Davey, you are this week's patron of the week. Also, shout-outs to Christopher Trent Darby, Andrew Zer, Jordan Molman Ritchie, Steamed Ham Champion Dylan Haggett, Sally Kimberley, Hank Scorpio, Kevin Dental Plan Flood, Jonathan Rossi, Zach Pruitt, Timothy Burleson, Joel Yolande, Katie G, Daniel Kotnick, Shannon Hofer, Jenna Rice, Reese Roberts, Adam Sanderson, George McMenemy, Stephen Roberts, Bella Winderbank, David Stewart, Tom Pickering, Mark Boston Burgess, Grand Skipper Noah, and Declan Phoenix. Thank you guys so much for your ongoing support. All right,
that's
Mr.
a
Davis.
heck of a lot of names.
A heck of a lot of names, and they continue to support us, and we appreciate every single last one of them. But it's now time for some trivia for Treehouse of Horror 15. My first question is, what should you stay away from at the Heaven Buffet?
The 3-bean salad.
Yes, you can't tell me what to do.
Well, you're not the boss of me. Although that actually is good advice for any buffet, heavenly or not.
Beans is the musical fruit, and the more you eat, the more you
The more you fart.
Yes. I'm not fart. So you say the old English way. It's good for your heart, the more you eat, the more you fart. I've always said the musical fruit, the more you eat, the more you toot, which is like the PC version.
Well, I prefer farting to tooting.
I tooted. But anyway, what's your first question?
My first question to you is, in the credits of the opening sitcom,
Yeah.
Takeoff, the audience is by what?
Brought to you by what? I know they're slaves. They're from some slave company or something. Is that right?
You're very, very close. Would you like me to tell you?
Yeah, tell me. Yes.
It is the slave colony of Rebulon 7.
Rebulon 7. Right. A little bit of Futurama sneaking in there.
I think so.
My next question is, what is the name of Comic Book Guy's store in the second act?
Ow. I don't know.
Ow. What was that? What was her name? The singer?
I think
Anastasia?
that was a minute with Rick James.
I'm out of love.
Oh, set me free. Do you ever make up silly songs?
Silly songs or just make up words for songs?
Well, I remember one day I was making my grocery list, and it was like, I'm out of milk, get some more. Gonna go down to the store, and while I'm there, get some bread, or I'll punch you in the head.
So and you're standing there in your undies in your kitchen going, so this is my life.
It's about that time my wife said, I think we should see other people.
Okay. My next. So the answer to that one, by the way, is the Emporium of Exotica.
I was hoping to distract you from the fact that I didn't know the answer. My next question to you.
Yeah.
The illustrated novel story or bonus story features young who?
Really should have written that down. I only wrote the title of the book. What is it?
It's young David Diligent.
David Diligent. My final question is, what's the first invention we see at the invention, whatever it is?
Oh,
exhibition?
in Belly the Boss?
Yeah, in Belly the Boss. So it's the Invention Expo. And what's the first invention we see being used?
Dando, I don't know.
It's the Vagrant Translator with the crazy cat lady.
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah. Now, I have two more questions, but I can give you just one of them if you like.
Hit me with both if you like. Why not?
Well, okay then. How many performances of the Rosie O'Donnell musical were there before it closed?
That was 3, and we should have seen that coming.
We should have seen that coming, absolutely. And one last question for you. According to Frink, where must Homer enter in Burns's body? It's a vein, but which one?
I've written it in my notes. I won't cheat.
Go ahead and cheat. If you wrote it down, then
That's cheating, isn't it?
I guess
It's sub something. Sub clay.
It almost sounds Glaveny.
Oh, subclavian. Clavian? Subclavian.
That's correct.
Yes, subclavian vein.
Subclavian vein.
Something about veins just irks me. Ugh.
Well, they're no arteries.
No. But yes, that is trivia for Treehouse of Horror 15. Now, speaking of, you were just discussing Rosie O'Donnell, reminded me of Roseanne. And we were discussing Roseanne on a previous episode, either last week or the week before. And we were discussing how the show got cancelled, right? How she got cancelled. She actually did come back for a season with Roseanne, and then that got cancelled, and then that turned into The Connors.
That's right.
Yes, yeah. So it was Roseanne the original, a season with Roseanne, and then The Connors. I've had a couple of emails, people saying, just letting you know that Roseanne did appear for a season. She got a hardcore fan base, apparently.
Wow. Nice bit of crossover. We might have to do a Roseanne show.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Maybe there's a crossover there for sure. But that is trivia for Treehouse of Horror 15. It's now time we take a short break, and when we come back, we'll give our somewhat in-depth review.
Ooh.
If you're a fan of everything we do here at Four Finger Discount, you can show your support by joining the family at patreon.com/fourfingerdiscount. Here you'll get ad-free early access to all of our shows, Zoom calls with Guy and myself, as well as bonus podcasts such as Tales of Futurama and Guy on Springfield, where we go back and revisit classic episodes from the first 10 seasons. So go ahead and join the family today at patreon.com/fourfingerdiscount. The original air date of Treehouse of Horror 15 was November 7th in 2004. It was written by Bill Odenkirk, and it was...
Brother of Bob.
Is it actually Brother of Bob?
It is.
That's awesome. And directed by David Silverman, the one and the only David Silverman, who appeared in the book that Mitch and I once wrote, Homer's Odyssey and the Biggest Simpsons Guide.
Brother of Sarah. No, he's not.
David Silverman, I remember interviewing him for the book, and it was like on my lunch break that I took a somewhat extended lunch break to do it. Just out in the car, in the front car park. I'm sitting there with my laptop, my fucking headphones on, my microphone. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm talking to David Silverman from The Simpsons. This is fucking cool. I'm just like on my lunch break. Anyway,
That was cool.
everyone else is out there eating their ham sandwiches, and I'm interviewing David Silverman. Good times.
I did that when we were at work as well. I had to do a couple of interviews.
Did you? What, at Pop Culture when you worked there?
Yeah. I did one with Michael Imperioli, aka Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos.
Yeah, that's cool.
I went out to the car and did it there.
Apparently, he is lovely.
He was a really nice guy. And he did the thing that's you always want to hear from an interview subject.
That's a good interview. That's a good question.
He's like, I've never been asked that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you hear that, that's a good question, and you can tell they actually mean it.
Yeah, because one thing you learn in the game is like, they're either using that to compose their thoughts.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to stall for time. That's a good question. Or they're using to butter you up. But sometimes, and if you get a bit savvy, you can tell it's like, that's a good question. It's like, that's right.
Yeah, if you're making them actually have to think about an answer, you know you've got them hooked. Because when you're doing an interview, there's nothing worse when you're doing the interview and you can tell that it's giving you the same dribble they've given the previous 10 interviews that they've been doing that day. It's like, everyone's already heard this one. Yeah, or you've been doing your research. That's one of the downfalls of when you're doing your research is you see all the previous answers, and then when you ask a question and you hear them giving that answer, you're like, you're just going into default mode. Yeah, that's one of my goals with interviews was always trying to get an answer that I've never read before. Yeah, that was always my goal anyway. But anyway, we should find those interviews that you did back in the day. I've got heaps of my old interviews. We should just whack them up somewhere.
I think I've only got a few still like on digital file.
Yeah.
But I'll have a look and see what I've got.
Yeah, maybe you should give your mate Bruce Campbell a phone call and see if he wants to come on the Simpsons podcast someday. I love Bruce Campbell. Anyway, getting to...
Who does not?
Treehouse of Horror 15. It kicks off with not the Ned Zone. That's the first story, but it kicks off with a little... What would you call these? Just like an intro outro?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, was there even an outro?
Oh, well, at the end, it was kind of like the closing credits, kind of, you know what I mean? But same music. Yeah. But it was this was purely just like an extended intro for Treehouse of Horror 15 because they've gone away from the going through the graveyard and having the eerie music. I wish they'd bring back that music. That music just...
The theremin style.
I guess it's nostalgic for me because that's what every Treehouse of Horror used to start like for the first 5 or 6, I believe. Bring that shit back. I think that's something that fans of The Simpsons would appreciate. We bring that back and just have the old school going through the graveyard style intro.
I get the feeling we should probably have a segment called Bring That Shit Back.
Yeah, bring that shit back. But it kicks off with Keep It at Kodos starring Kang. And they're cooking the family because their boss is coming over for dinner. And Homer's eating himself and Bart's in searing pain.
Classic sitcom setup.
I love the
boss coming for dinner.
Yeah, I actually didn't mind this for what it was. I thought it was funny. And then just Bart, he bursts out of the boss's stomach. They're in line for a hypergalactic promotion. I've got no family now. You do now, son. You do now. Cue sappy music. Now, was that song actually? Is that actually a song?
That's from Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers. Okay, yes.
Yeah. Standing tall. Wow,
just makes you just want to go, yeah.
It really does. It's like the quintessential 80s soundtrack song. I mean, even more so than like the Family Ties one or the Growing Pains one.
Well, I hear that song and I immediately I know this isn't what happens, but I immediately just think of like Michael J. Fox like doing a fist into the air.
You're just combining all the 80s stuff into one.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox, End of Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
And just...
What an ending that was, by the way.
It's pretty rad. I mean, I'm not the hugest fan of the Breakfast Club.
The movie kind of drags for me, but but the ending's cool.
Even at age 15, I was like, this is a bit pandering.
Yeah.
It's no Weird Science.
Weird Science.
You ever seen that?
Awesome. Yes, it's awesome.
It does not play well in 2022.
No, not at all. But
even though, I mean, it's not all about female empowerment, but I mean, it is kind of diffusing toxic masculinity, and Kelly LeBrock's character is actually sort of the most savvy and strong character in it. I mean, with a bit of tweaking, you could sort of redo it for 2022 as like, yeah, this plays now, but yeah, there's a lot of that's kind of. But early RDJ performance.
Yeah, is there anything pre like 1995 that doesn't just make you go these days?
Not a whole lot, no. Yeah, I think pretty much everything is going to have at least one thing that's like, don't know if that flies.
You kind of go to like pre-Twitter. Like pre-Twitter, life was different. It was a different
Oh
world.
yeah, very much so. Yeah, all these voices and all these opinions are out there, but we were just like la la la, can't hear.
Yeah, you couldn't hear them. Now you have to hear them.
Yeah, but Weird Science. I mean, I remember. Well, the aforementioned JP. This is a few years later after the
bullshit.
After the bullshit incident in the car. JP, Ollie, and myself, we were over at Ollie's house. We had the place to ourselves.
Tried to build a woman?
No. Although that probably would have been good for me because JP and Ollie were good-looking guys, and I was a dork.
Okay.
But we were just old enough that we were able to, sneakily get booze.
Okay.
And I think we were 17.
In Australia, you've got to be 18. That's all, not 21.
You have to be 18.
Yes.
Yeah. We just got shit-faced on not a lot of booze.
One beer. You shared one beer.
No, it was actual liquor. I think it was Bacardi. I think we had like Bacardi and Coke because we thought that was a bit more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And we watched National Lampoon's European Vacation and Weird Science. And to this day, JP and Ollie and I will just have to say a line from Weird Science, and we're just like, travel back in time.
You should just like meet up every couple of years and just watch those two films as a double header.
Probably should, actually.
But let's get into the Ned Zone. So this is a takeoff of which, Mr. Davis?
This is a takeoff of The Dead Zone, the novel by Stephen King, the film by David Cronenberg, the TV series starring, and I didn't plan this, guys, Anthony Michael Hall, star of Weird Science.
Circle complete.
Circle completed. By the way, shout outs to the people at Simpsons HQ, because when it opens with the Ned Zone, it says, "Oh, you're using the proper Dead Zone font from the book and the movie." Nice one.
Yep.
Attention to detail, much appreciated.
Well, that's the thing with these Treehouse of Horror segments. You can tell they're having the most fun when they do these, and they really go the extra yard to have little details there, just like you're saying, just the font and things like that. But it kicks off with Homer trying to get. Well, before we get into this, do you want to give listeners who may not have seen the Dead Zone a quick, brief little rundown of what the Dead Zone actually is about? The Dead Zone.
Oh, certainly. Look, I think we may have given a brief rundown in the previous episode, but for those who didn't tune in, why? And here we go. The Dead Zone is about a young school teacher with the very average name of Johnny Smith, who he's seemingly got a pretty perfect life. He's in love with a fellow teacher named Sarah. They're going to get married. He likes his career. He likes his life a whole lot. He gets into a terrible, terrible car accident and is thrown into a coma for 5 years. When he wakes up, he discovers he's got the power of second sight. He can touch someone's hand and see their past, see their future, see what's going on. And sometimes in these visions, there's like blank spots or black areas or dead zones. And when those occur, it's like, oh, well, I can actually change this. And, some of it works for good, some of it works for bad. He's got a lot of people saying, you're the devil. And so he sort of goes off and tries to live a quiet life by himself. Then one day he shakes the hand of this guy who's running for president, and he sees that this guy is an absolute madman who's going to start a nuclear war. And John has to decide, okay, well, what am I going to do about this? And
let's not spoil it.
The story goes from there.
Yeah,
it's great. I reckon it's probably the first King that I ever read properly.
Okay.
And this was back in like 1984, and I would have been a teenager. And then I saw the movie as well, which starred my man Christopher Walken.
A good take on the book.
It's a fantastic take on the book.
Okay.
Quite different.
Creative license for.
You can read the book, and they streamlined the novel for the movie.
Well, you have to, yeah.
You really
unless
do.
You
they cut out a lot of bits, but they kept the core story. It's really, really good. I think that there's if you're into physical media, it's been brought out on Blu-ray in a very nice transfer. But yeah, read them both. And the TV series as well with Anthony Michael Hall, I think it started in the early 2000s, went for like 6 seasons.
6 seasons? So is it just a guy that goes around and he can see the visions?
Yeah. So
cool.
It has the through line of him realizing, this guy's, this evil politician is evil. But he also, has sort of his vision of the week stories.
Yeah. It's like Burn Notice. He's got his overriding arc, but he has to help the little minions here and there.
That is very correct. The way that we used to do TV back in the day.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm a huge fan of the Dead Zone concept, and I'm a big fan of every way they've done it so far.
Cool.
But the book is really fantastic.
Do you think if you've seen the movie or the TV show, you'd appreciate this segment more?
Not really. I mean, it uses the inciting incident of like, I've had an accident. I've woken up and now I can see the, visions. One of these visions is like, I'd better do something about it.
Yeah, catastrophic, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But otherwise, I think you can. You don't necessarily need a working knowledge of the Dead Zone to enjoy the Ned Zone.
Because when you were growing up in the 90s, like myself, you were too young to watch the Treehouse of Horror, the movies that Treehouse of Horrors were based on, as I've discussed you. I'd never seen the Freddy Krueger films or The Shining and things like that. So it's funny how we'd seen the Simpsons version first. Yeah. So then when you watch the real one, it's like, I don't know which one I like better.
I get you.
But this segment kicks off with Homer using a bowling ball, throwing it up onto the roof to try and get that frisbee down he thought was on the roof anyway. And it comes off and it knocks Flanders in the head. And he ends up finding the frisbee on the ground anyway. And you think, oh, Flanders is fucked. But no, he wakes up in hospital a few days later, and it turns out the ball knocked a brain tumor out of his head. Actually saved his life. So Homer saved his life in this point.
That is good.
Yeah.
One thing I enjoyed about Ned in the bed was doing his traditional doodlies, but then ending up with injury, bodily. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I really just liked the animation of when he's having a vision, where it zooms in on his eye. I know, is that what it's like in the Dead Zone?
No, not really.
No, okay, so there's added creative license there. I thought it looked really cool.
I'm trying to remember if they did it in the TV series, or they might have done a bit of.
You think they would have done something like that because it seemed very specific what they did there. But anyway,
yeah. I'm trying to remember when the TV series started as well. It might have been around 2000.
Well, let's have a look, shall we?
Okay.
The Dead Zone TV series started in. Oh, so it wasn't that long ago. It says 2002.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, first aired 2002.
Well, Dan, you realise that was 20 years ago.
Fucking hell, that was 20 years ago. Man, oh man. What's going on?
I know.
God, it's just crazy, isn't it? It's like 2000 just doesn't feel that long ago, but it's 22 years. Wowee. Oh, well. But the Dead Zone here was 6 seasons long. Well, there you go. I'm definitely going to check out that show. I thought it was like an 80s show. I didn't realise it was
No.
I mean, it's 20 years ago, but it's still somewhat recent, I guess you could say. It's not old.
It's not old, but yeah, it's got the 20-year thing. It's like, it's long enough that you can go back and it's got a bit of nostalgia value now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought them all on DVD. On DVD, not even Blu-ray.
Those audio commentaries were superb.
Added value. All right. So, but the eye thing, I think it might be a Dead Zone TV thing as well.
Okay. Yep. He shakes Hibbert's hand and he sees his death, where he's falling from the sky and splats on the ground. Hibbert opens up the window and Homer walks in, asks him to get the frisbee off the ledge, and he ends up falling out of the window. And he injects himself so he doesn't feel any pain. But he does get fucked up though.
It does, but I did enjoy the self-medicating before death. It's like, yeah, if you could have enough time to do that, yes, do so.
Yeah, put yourself to sleep. That'd be great. But Flanders just doesn't want to believe it. He's like, no, that's just got to be a one and done. Then he overhears Mole Man. His shoes are over the wire with him still in them. So he says, wriggle out and I'll catch you. And as he catches him, he sees the vision of him being eaten by gators, which I thought was quite gruesome. And he, as a result of being like spooked by that vision, he drops him in the sewer. Another setback.
That was a great line.
And he gets eaten by the alligators. Then he sees the Rosie O'Donnell musical close after 3 performances. It's like, we should have seen that one coming.
Do me! So, what'd I die of? Too much happiness? Naked girl avalanche?
You die eating a submarine sandwich.
What kind of bread?
Country parmesan.
Woohoo!
What's your favourite Subway bread?
What?
What? Just white bread?
It's been a while since I've had a Subway sandwich.
It's like you either go, if you go on the healthy one, it's usually wheat. But if you're feeling risky, you go the Italian herbs and cheese, right? That's like the fun one. That's the this is delicious.
Yeah. If you feel like treating yourself to a little European holiday.
Speaking of takeouts, it's happened again, Mr. Davis. Our good friends, I say good friends, they don't give us any money, but they give us delicious food. KFC.
What have they done?
10 for 10 tenders.
10 tenders for $10.
Yeah. I saw that. Nicholas. So I got the notification, and Nicholas sends me a screenshot of her notification on her phone about 10 seconds later, and she just goes, tonight's going to get messy.
That's true love in the Dando household, clearly.
I know, right?
Well, I was over visiting the lovely Louise last night. We were both kind of whacked. I mean, Lou's had some stuff for a course that she's been doing all weekend. I went over there and was like, there's food in the fridge. We should probably cook some of that chicken. After about 20 minutes on the couch, we're like,
did someone say KFC?
No, we're ordering kebabs from the fish and chip shop around the corner. And they were really nice kebabs too.
Man, fish and chip shop kebabs are the best.
Oh, yeah. Although, if we're going to be name-checking places, Kebab on High in High Street, Belmont.
Okay. I always get my favorite kebab place is the old, well, it's still called Wood Oven Pizza, Geelong, but it's no longer it's no longer next to Pizza Land. It actually closed before Easter to move. I think it's Union Street, the side street around the corner there, the little side street, and they're opening up again this week. I saw the sign saying officially opening this week, and I was like, yay! It's been like 12 weeks since my favorite souvlaki, and I'm going to have it again.
Yay! You can tell we're recording this just before dinner.
Yeah. Well, what is your souvlaki of choice? I'm a chicken souvlaki with extra chicken. What's yours? Sorry,
that's chicken and more chicken.
Mine is too for extra chicken. Extra chicken.
I'm a mixed guy.
A mixed, okay.
And the lovely Louise, I think, looked at me when I first ordered that, like, you're combining your meats. I don't know about that.
I don't even know you anymore.
I don't think I brought it around to my way of thinking, but I do enjoy a bit of lamb and chicken in the same combination.
The same wrap, yeah, okay, yeah.
In the same wrap.
Speaking of souvlakis, I want to hear from the listeners. So this season, I really want to hear from each and every one of you listeners. So if you're listening and you've never contacted us, simpsonsmailbag@gmail.com. We're going to be kicking off. First of all, first question here is, what's your souvlaki of choice? There you go. That's the theme of the week. What's your souvlaki of choice? Second thing is, we're bringing back the My 2 Cents segment. So a long time ago.
Yeah, you're going to have to word me up on this.
We used to have a segment. We're doing this live on the show. Guys never heard of this segment. So Mitch and I used to have this segment called My 2 Cents, right?
You said you'd never say his name.
Where people would write in and tell us their most tight ass moment. The moment in the world where they've been an absolute tight ass. And that's the way of saving their extra 2 cents. So write in simpsonsmailbag@gmail.com. The My 2 Cents segment is coming back as of next week. We want to hear from each and every one of you. When have you been, or someone that you know, been an absolute tight ass? We want to hear the most tight assery stories out there.
I'm looking forward to this.
You've got a week to think of one, Mr. Davis, when you've been a tight ass. Oh, me too. Just because, you'll be the first one next week. So that we can kick off, bringing it back with Guy Davis's My 2 Cents story on the next episode of Four Finger Discount. So stay tuned for that. But getting back to the Ned Zone, Flanders comes clean with the Simpsons kids. He says, my vision is I kill your father, because they ask him why he's selling the house. And Homer says, what, killing me? Yeah, as if you're going to be able to do that. Doesn't believe him at all. Gets Wiggum to give him his gun. And then Flanders is holding the gun. Homer's whacking the barrel. And there's something about a first-person perspective of a barrel pointing at somebody where I'm like, it's unsettling.
It kind of is, even in these animated circumstances.
Yeah.
And Homer being a bit of a jerk.
He's a jerk in this whole episode, really.
He really is. I mean, you couldn't kill anybody. You got to start with the big dog.
Yeah. But then he throws the gun in the chipper and he realizes he's changed the future, but unfortunately he's changed it for the worse, because now he sees the power plant explodes and destroys all of Springfield.
What have I done? I've changed the future for the worst. Homer, stay away from the nuclear plant.
Fine, I'll never go back. Starting tomorrow. Today is Lenny's birthday and they're having ice cream cake.
But you're gonna kill us all!
But ice cream cake!
One of the best things about going to McDonald's birthday parties in the 90s was the ice cream cake they'd always bring out. Plus, they used to always... This is what the 90s were like, kids. So now...
Dando's so hungry.
So Macca's birthday parties, they used to just take the birthday party kids through the back and watch, and they'd show you how they make the hamburgers. No health and safety at all. No gloves, no mask, nothing. You're just walking through the fucking kitchen, fucking food cooking here everywhere.
I'm not sure I'd want that.
Really?
I don't think I want to see how the sausage is made.
It's just a piece of meat on a grill, really. It wasn't that exciting, but it was just the thrill of, I'm going behind the scenes.
I guess so, yes.
Maybe Ronald would be here.
They really should have all the young McDonald's staffers dressed up as clowns that day. So when you go in, it's like, it really is a wonderful clown factory, or something like that.
Well, we took Elliot to Macca's. He went to Macca's for lunch on his birthday last week, and when we went in there, it's so sterile now. McDonald's. You order the food on these screens. You don't even speak to the people when you order food anymore, and you stand in a line. It's so bland. It's just
I've been trying not to eat Maccas, but I must admit, I had a little alert come up saying, we're not doing apple pies at the moment. We are doing creme brulee
I thought
pie.
of you the second I got that notification. I
And I'm
nearly sent
like-
it to you.
And I'm like, I made the promise. But on the other hand, creme brulee pie. Promise to yourself, creme brulee pie.
Was it delicious?
It was all right. It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
But you went in, and honestly, God, it sounds like that factory in the Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's all beep,
Yeah.
beep, 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 beep.
It really
It's like,
does.
I couldn't work here. I would fucking kill someone.
Yeah, it's so bland.
Yeah.
Monotonous and bland. Yeah. It sounds like a factory, like you said. But anyway, enough about McDonald's. So Flanders says, don't go to the plant. Homer doesn't listen to him. Flanders goes in after him, and he says, I've got to find Homer. And he sees him in his little Sector 7G. I like the way they did this. Do not press the quarter strike button. Press quarter strike button. Don't do it. Don't do it. You'll kill us all.
Everyone.
Do it. Do it. Kill everyone. Okay. But I like the Homer. It's taking me a long time to reach this button, as he points over. Flanders grabs the gun off the guard, shoots Homer through the back. Homer fall backwards. And when he lands next to the quarter strike button, it obviously doesn't land on it. They actually built the suspense quite well. I thought this is quite funny. Then the tongue blows up Springfield. They're all gone. They're all in heaven. Marge is annoyed. She thinks Homer just blew up Springfield so he wouldn't have to clean the garage. Everything's coming up Homer until he realizes that the garage is also in heaven.
With a little harp and a little halo.
And then Homer's going to get what's coming to him, his Frisbee. He walks off with God discussing the buffet. So yeah, a pretty enjoyable first segment here on Treehouse of Horror 15.
I'd be super pissed if I was Ned. I've devoted my life to the big guy, and instead the big guy and Homer are just instant bros.
Homer and God have been bros for a long time.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Feeding him popcorn chicken. And that was the Colonel actually feeding God popcorn chicken in an episode, wasn't it? Yeah. But anyway, the next segment is 4 beheadings and a funeral. And I thought we were going to get it. This would be the perfect segment for a Hugh Grant cameo, right?
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a British film or was that just Hugh Grant?
What do you mean?
4 Weddings and a Funeral.
4 Weddings and a Funeral. Yeah, it was a British movie.
It was a British movie. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, starring Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
And
because my best friend's wedding was it? Oh, no, he's not in that, is he? My best friend. That's just Julie
No.
Roberts. No, he's in Notting Hill.
and
What's
it does have it. Yeah, that's the connection. Yeah, 4 Weddings and a Funeral has Hugh Grant. My Best Friend's Wedding has Julie Roberts.
Notting Hill.
Notting Hill has the both of them.
Yes, best of both worlds.
I'm a 4 Weddings guy more than a Notting Hill guy. I would
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
And probably even more than a Love Actually guy.
Love Actually, I was never really huge until I met Nicola, and I just know how much she loves the movie, so it just makes me happy seeing her happy.
Now, I don't know. There have been a few Jack the Ripper movies, and I thought, is this going to sort of run with light? I mean, I think From Hell.
I was going to say that's the Depp one, right?
That's the Johnny Depp
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that had come out a few years earlier. But there's a really good one called Murder by Decree
Okay.
from the late 70s, starring Christopher Plummer as Sherlock Holmes and James Mason, who I think we've talked about. He's Johnny Carson's and Rodney Dangerfield's best buddy.
What does he say? What does he say? What does Dangerfield say? So what's new with you?
So what's new with you? With James Mason as Dr. Watson. And then that's a really good one because I think it was one of the first times I ever saw a dramatization of the theory that Jack the Ripper was like some rogue royal.
Mm.
Do you know that theory?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And
like,
it's actually pretty neat. Yeah. And, it's all shitty turn of the century London and fog and everything's miserable. And I thought, it'd be nice if they sort of do a bit on that. But I think it's just a generic sort of Jack the Ripper kind of story. But there's still a lot to enjoy in it, including my favorite bit. Let's start at the very start with the London streetwalker or harlot or whatever we want to call them.
It's a prostitute. Woman, lady of the night.
Well, sex worker, I believe, is the current term du jour.
Is this sex work? Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Absolutely not.
No.
Here's the thing, though. This is me putting on my tell it like it is hat. So you shouldn't use the term prostitute because, it's derogatory. Use the term sex worker. Prostitute is the word for sex worker.
You gave me quite a fright, you did. So you don't need no fancy knife to get me attention? Not with those handsome mutton chops. Come on, give us a snog. That's not
It's funny. I'd never heard the word snog before I met Nicola. Nicola, she calls a kiss a snog. It's not a very attractive word for kiss. Give us a snog.
It's not really, is it?
No.
I imagine it would be quite charming when Nicholas gives a snog.
But the Scotland Yard, the little tagline.
This is one of my favourite moments. That's one of my favourite bits. I didn't put it in my favourites, but it is one of my favourite. Our motto, what's all this then?
What's all this then?
Which is just a great thing to say.
Yeah.
It's like when you first rock up, I say, what's all this then?
But you can say it in so many different contexts. You can be pissed off. What's all this then?
Or, you go into the, you go in where Elliot and Holly are, doing dinosaur stuff. What's all this then?
Yeah. It's all in the way you say it, all in delivery.
It is the Swiss Army knife of phrases.
It's great, yes. But they're at the morgue and they're dusting her for prints. What do you mean? Well, the prince is coming. I want it to be clean. Then Sherlock Holmes arrives, aka Eliza Simpson, along with her immediately amazed sidekick, Dr. Bartley. And they're looking for clues. And Wiggum, he's just called Wiggum in this, isn't he? Wiggum says, no, we've already found the killer.
We don't need clues. We've already caught the killer. Please. This mysterious Hindu is clearly responsible for the murder. Lock him up till we find someone darker, boys.
Please, I am not a killer. I am but a humble purveyor of disgusting British food. Lark tongues, head pudding, eel pies.
Eel pie? My favorite. We British sure eat crap.
Inspector, might I have a word with you?
Absolutely. Get that down there, you. You were saying?
Well, it's like this. I'm a proper Cockney flower girl, I am, and I sees this real strange bloke. Out of sorts, mad in the eyes, all kettles and biscuits.
Right.
Well, he seen I was looking at him, and he drops this and runs. Call blimey, skip to me loo.
As you're saying, Julie's accent, she just sounds like she's having so much fun with it, doesn't she?
Very much so.
It's not very good, but it just sounds fun.
No, we all love Julie Kavner. Fantastic actor, but her voice is always Julie Kavner.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, she says she saw the killer and she found the sword with the blood all over it. And Eliza says she'll take the challenge of trying to find the killer. Now it's time for the suspect in the child abduction case, and it's Peter Pan. I'll never grow up. Oh, you're in jail, you will. Oh man, Peter's in for some strife. Then they go. Eliza takes the sword to the Emporium of Exotica. And the comic book guy explains that it's the 7 swords of Osiris, or Osiris, yes. And he offers them the comic, but he doesn't call it a comic. He calls it something else. But it's Daunting Deeds is the comic that he offers them. So like a visual something on the lines. But anyway, he goes to check through his records.
Not illustrated novel.
Something along those lines, yeah. But he says, I'm going to go check my records to see who bought the 7 swords that he sold them, who he sold them to. And then whilst he's doing that, they find Flanders' shrunken heads. Then the mutton chop murderer strikes again, and he has killed. I say the comic book guy. I don't think he has a name in this either. I'm just going to go with comic book guy. And he tries to save himself by tipping the Professor Lazarus is dead, no more.
Yeah, Elixir,
yes, and it falls onto the stool. I just like this, Simon Stulowitz.
I'm alive. I'm going to go to America. I'll be in pictures, you'll see. The whole world is going to know the name Simon Stulowitz.
Were they even making movies at this stage? Was Hollywood even a thing in 1890?
It doesn't matter. But I assume not in 1890, because was there even cameras at that point in 1890? Like video
maybe
cameras?
The very beginnings of Thomas Edison and the Lumiere brothers and all that kind of business.
Yeah.
But, we
no films.
Not really.
Not proper films anyway, no.
No.
The kids walk off with the comic book guy's ledger so they can try and find out who the killer was, and they realize that the 7 swords were sold to Mr. Burns, and they go and they find him in the opium district, and they find Burns there. I like the design of Burns here with his mullet and everything.
Yeah, that was good. I'm a little bummed that I'll probably never visit an opium den.
Well, there's one in Geelong. Why don't you go there?
What? Oh, that's like a shisha bar.
But I thought, an opium bar is just a bar, isn't it?
Oh, is there a bar actually called Opium Bar?
There's literally a place in Geelong called Opium Bar.
Oh, for real? Okay. Well, I think there's a difference between Opium Bar and a legit opium den.
You should walk in and go, and if they've got no opium there, just be like, I ain't going anywhere until I get my opium.
No, I'd walk in and say, what's all this about?
What's all this then?
What's all this?
But Burns is smoking. He's having a great time. He's an addict, and he says that he sold the 7 swords so he can buy more opium. And then he points out, it's like to a man with mutton chops, like that man there, and he points out Homer. And and as he said, Dan Castellaneta's voice of Homer here, it was great as well. His British accent. He starts throwing addicts at them, and then Wiggum grabs him, and Ralph here also smoking.
Indeed, having what he's doing, opiumos.
Yes, he is. Yeah. And then we get another murder with a sword, and this time it is Aunt Selma, I want to say. I think it was Aunt Selma.
He could have killed this one days ago. The body is bloated and the face is rotten.
It was 5 minutes ago, you twit.
Now it's time for Homer's hanging. You feel so sorry for the guy. He didn't do it. Maybe this is Guy Incognito. But Wiggum, he's still eating the eel pie. That's the constant throughout this segment here. And Eliza interrupts and says, I know who it was because the sword smells like eel pie. And then Lou reveals that he's got mutton chops as well. I like the way they flap down. Felt like a Scooby-Doo ending here. And he says, well, Eddie never says anything bad about me because he cut out his tongue. And then Wiggum goes to bail on a balloon. And then the alien space. I thought at first it was the Yellow Submarine from the Beatles flying through.
That's what I thought. Or, some kind of Captain Nemo nonsense.
Yeah, but no, it was just the Kane Curtis' ship. It pops the hot air balloon. And I assume Wiggum dies.
A great line, a great closing out line, though, from Wiggum. Remember me for my police work and not my murders.
Yes. I wish they just ended it there. They didn't need the Ralph's dream bit, I don't think. The fact that it was all a dream. I was like, it's Treehouse of Horror. It doesn't need to be a dream. But anyway, the final segment here for Treehouse of Horror 15. In the Belly of the Boss. A takeoff of which film, as you discussed earlier, Mr. Davis?
Fantastic Voyage, a science fiction movie from the late 60s, mainly starring Raquel Welch and her figure-hugging bodysuit. But it was also sort of loosely remade in the 80s as a great movie called Inner Space, starring Dennis Quaid and Martin Short. Dennis Quaid is a test pilot who volunteers for this mission where he gets shrunk and supposedly injected into a rabbit so they can do like, hey, we can shrink things and go into bodies and do all manner of procedures and shit. Except he gets injected into Martin Short because of all manner of shenanigans.
Mishaps.
And then mishaps. Wacky mix-ups. Yeah, it's good fun. They're both Fantastic Voyage is one of those movies that's like, oh man, this is going to be really great. And it's like, it's really not.
Okay.
But Inner Space is like, hey, this actually is pretty good. So if you must watch one of them, watch Inner Space. And if you want to see a hot lady, in a figure-hugging bodysuit, just Google Raquel Welch, Fantastic Voyage.
So everyone's arriving to the New Invention Expo. And the sign says, see the inventions of tomorrow, today, and tomorrow.
And tomorrow.
We get the Vagrant translator, reminded me of the baby translator from when Unky Herb comes.
True.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that the crazy cat lady finally got a chance to explain her situation.
I felt so bad for her. I was like, oh, that just makes me feel sad now. I have a serious brain disease. Please give me a cat. I was like, oh, man. It's not funny anymore. We can't laugh at a mental disability, like a mental illness. Anyway.
Speak for yourself.
Frank's got a comically large capsule, and he explains what's all inside of it. I can't quite remember, but it gives you a lifetime of perfect health, basically.
Yes, various vitamins and additives and whatnot. But yes, you're right. It's the limitless pill in one big pill that's then going to get shrunk down.
Maggie climbs in without anyone realizing, and then Frank shrinks it, and then Burns just takes it and eats it for himself because, that's just classic Mr. Burns, all about himself. And they realize that Maggie is inside because they can hear a pacifier being sucked on from the inside of Mr. Burns.
What the what?
Mr. Davis just eating babies.
It's true. I probably would take a pill that promised me a lifetime of decent health and also had a baby in it.
If someone said to you, all right, you're going to take this pill and you'll have a lifetime of perfect health, but every single day as a result, someone will die because you've taken this pill. They'll just drop dead.
I'm waiting for the catch. I'm still waiting for them to make those limitless pills. Did you ever see that movie Limitless?
No.
The one with Bradley Cooper?
I never saw it, no.
It's a good movie.
Okay.
Bradley Cooper's this no-hoper. Yeah, his life's going nowhere. His girlfriend's left him. And then one day he comes across this friend from college who says, hey, I'm working as a pharmaceutical rep, and, well, this is the new thing we've been developing. And, it's you take it, And hey, you know how you only use 10% of your brain? Now you're going to use 100% of your brain. And he pops the pill, and all of a sudden, oh, wow, I've got terrific focus. And everything I've ever sort of thought about or seen, I can now recall. Oh, and he just becomes Bradley Cooper. But there's a downside to it, as there is. But it's a really good movie. And I'll sort of put it on every once in a while and go, man, it'd be good to have a limitless pill. And then it's like, you could probably actually just do this shit. You know, it starts off with this. Well, yeah, he's like, oh man, how could anyone live in a place like this? My flat's a mess. And he cleans it all up because he's feeling super focused and energized. I'm like, you could probably do this without a pill, dude.
You probably just clean your house, yes.
Yeah.
Limitless. I'll whack that onto the list. So Limitless is one I have to watch. Well, Inner Space, is that the other one?
Inner Space, and The Dead Zone.
The Dead Zone, yes, TV series, yes.
Yes.
Full of shit to watch now, thanks to Mr. Davis and his recommendations.
You enjoy it, Dando, and hey, you listeners, you enjoy it too.
I thought Frink was the MVP of this segment. A lot of great lines. She'll be rocked gently to sleep by the stomach acid. So Homer just reaches in and pulls out, I want to say like his liver or something of Mr. Burns.
Some organ.
Yeah. Throws it back in, and Frink explains that Maggie has 30 minutes to live, so he's going to need to send a miniature-sized vessel in there for the family to go in there and try and get her out. And the family are off on their way. And while you're in there, grab as much cancer as you can. He says that they must enter through the subclavian vein.
Dad, you should listen to him. He's a man of science, and you can barely read.
Bruh! Has science ever kissed a woman, or won the Super Bowl, or put a man on the moon? This is what I think of your precious science. Help me, science!
They get wedged in Mr. Burns' heart, and in order to dislodge it, they must do it from the outside. It says here, watch out for, is it the retro sides or something?
Retrograde viruses?
Retrograde, yeah, something like that. Yeah, basically a bunch of viruses that are going to get you if you go outside the ship. And then Marge goes out, and she's in her revealing suit, which, of course, was a takeoff of Raquel... Who?
Welch.
Raquel Welch from...
Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm old. I mean, I grew up in an era when...
Hey, man, I thought 2004 was recent before, whatever. 20 years ago, you know?
Just growing up as a child, you know, you'd hear sort of, not hacky guys, but guys like Johnny Carson that saying, ooh, something about Raquel Welch. Ooh, ba-dum, boom. You know, it's like a shorthand for hot chick, essentially.
Yeah. But Homer, he helps unwedge the ship. He's got a rib. Yeah, there's plenty of them down there. So he ate 2 of them.
Only ate 2.
Bart is peeing in there. And he says, you're going to need a nerve impulse to get out. And I think it's Lisa says, you're going to need a nerve impulse. Homer just hits all the buttons with his hand, with his fist. Boom. Well, that hurt like hell. And they rescue Maggie just in time with like a giant claw machine. And I like the little line from Marge here. Oh, my sweet undigested baby. And as Frank explains here, I've got a bit of a pickle with this here. So the extra weight due to Maggie being there, they no longer do not have enough weight to get out. And I was like, baby couldn't weigh all that much. Is there nothing on that ship they could just throw off?
Yeah, I'm sure there's something
on there.
Excess baggage on there.
But he says they don't have enough power to get out because the weight is too much, so someone must stay behind. And Homer first of all tries to suggest that the kids do it, and they look at him. He's like, all right, fine, I'll stay. And then I like as they're taking off, Marge goes, don't worry, we'll be fine. I was like, bit of a bitch line there. But Homer finds a marshmallow, so he's happy, even though he's going to die.
Now, I must admit, and this is going to sound very gross.
Yep.
When Frink says at the start, get as much cancer as you can. And Homer's biting into it. And it's like, is he biting into a cancer? I know he said it's a marshmallow.
I don't think they were going
I don't think
that.
it is.
But that would be dark.
It would be.
But they fly out through all the boogers. Marge's like, cut me some slack, I'm a widow now. And this next part here was probably the moment that reminded me most of a Treehouse of Horror Simpsons because it was uncomfortable, gruesome, but still entertaining, where Homer expands inside of Mr. Burns. I was like, shit! Like, can you imagine?
Well, again, I mean, beyond the main sort of idea that each segment has, you know, we're going to be taken off the Dead Zone or we're going to be doing Jack the Ripper. I think they often throw in other little bits and pieces and tributes and shout outs as well. And for a while there, again, way back in the day, which is probably, you know, would you say back in your day? No, not even back in my day. See, back in like Bill Odenkirk's day, for
Okay,
instance,
yeah.
because he's probably a little older than me, and he probably grew up in the 70s. I was about to say there was a rash of these movies, but really there was only like two. But of things where there were creatures with two heads. It was like some weird science experiment gone wrong, and they put another head on someone's body. I mean, there was one called The Thing with Two Heads, and there was another one called The Incredible Two-Headed Transplant. And, so basically you've got an actor, usually a pretty big dude, and then they've got someone behind them with like their head on their shoulder, and they're sort of walking around as the same person. And usually the experiment has driven them mad, and they either want to kill men or feel up women. These were not good movies.
Jesus.
They were, yeah. Oh, yeah. They were made for the drive-in. They were gross. But that's what that reminded me of as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if the guys at Simpsons HQ were like, hey, let's throw in a bit of a tribute to, The Thing with Two Heads.
Well, they've already used a similar scenario with the exact same characters back in Treehouse of Horror 3, I want to say. Where Homer, they put his brain into the robot and he becomes a Frankenstein robot, Homer's brain. The one where he goes, I'm Davy Crockett. When he's wearing
That's right, yeah,
Homer's
got the
brain in his
brain
head.
on that, yeah,
but then the robot crushes Mr. Burns' body and they stitch Mr. Burns' head to Homer's body. So,
of course.
Yes, yeah. So they've done it before, but it's a different, but the same, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you're right about it being kind of, it's entertaining, but it's also, ooh.
Yeah.
Because, Homer under the skin, the way he is, the whole thing just looks so off-putting.
And that's what the Treehouse of Horror should do. They should give you a moment where you go, oh, shit, that's uncomfortable. Oh my. But Homer and Burns, they're stuck together now. And Homer can't eat. He needs a mouth hole and some other holes too. And they start dancing together to, which song were they dancing to again?
I've Got You Under My Skin.
That's it, right, yes. The perfect song, I guess you could say. And all the characters from the episode, different ones, join them on the dance floor, and they have a merry old time at the end there, and we get the sitcom credits at the end for the Kang and Kodo. So Keeping It Kodo starring Kang.
Indeed, yes, with a reprise of Standing Tall. Oh, wow, that was no good for anyone.
What was the final Gracie? Because it's a scream, isn't it?
It's just a scream.
Just Homer's scream, yes.
Yeah.
So, reviewing the episode, I think I enjoyed it more than what I initially thought.
It's always the case, Dan.
Not always the case. Mangle Banner.
Let's not forget. Lest we forget. But we tend to have a bit of fun.
Yes.
When we look back over it.
Yeah, so it's not the greatest of all time, and it's nowhere near the worst of all time. I thought, there's enough in here to keep me entertained. So Treehouse of Horror 15, well done.
It is, as Homer says, the creamy center.
What did we learn, Palmer?
So what did you learn from Treehouse of Horror 15, Mr. Davis?
Well, Mr. Dando, if I'm ever going to take someone's life, I'm not going to start with the big dog.
Yeah, that would be good advice. I also learned that taking one's life also doesn't mean you're going to get out of housework. So there goes that option out the window.
Damn it, that was my escape hatch.
Does the lovely Louise ever make you clean her house? When I say make, I mean, do you ever feel like you should, like when the house is messy there, because you go there all the time, it's almost like it's part of your job now to make sure the house is clean there?
I don't feel compelled to do so. I mean, I don't feel like, having said that, I do it.
Yep.
I mean, when I go over there, it's like,
because you're a gentleman.
She has a cleaner who comes in. So there's that. But when I get there, she will have invariably have made dinner for her and the children. And I say children, one's 18. They're teenagers. But she's made dinner. And I think this is just an ironclad rule, really. One cooks, one cleans.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yep.
Makes sense.
I'm one of those people, though, when I'm able to, because it's not always possible. And when you got kids running around, it's fucking usually impossible. But I like to, if I can, clean as I go. Because I love to be cooking my food and the kitchen to be clean at the same time. That's what the ultimate.
It's very good if you can pull it off.
If you can,
It's got a slight degree of difficulty. But no, I probably clean Lou's place more than I clean mine.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not me being like a suck up, like, oh, what a perfect boyfriend I am by wiping down this bench. It's like, I don't know, she put in the yards. Time for me to, do my part.
From this day forward, your name shall be...
All right, it is now time for the very first round of the Guy Davis New Name Championship for Season 16. Congratulations once again
back, baby.
It's back indeed. Congratulations once again to Philip J. Hawkins for winning last season. All right, so we've thrown out the gauntlet, the challenge to the patrons out there. If you want to be a part of the Guy Davis New Name Championship, just got to be a $1 plus patron, support the show, get access to the Facebook group, and we have, as always, as we do it now, Guy Davis doesn't know who's associated with each name. I send him the names, I gather them all up, send them to Guy. He picks his favourites. There's no favourites here, guys. He's not playing favourites of anybody, of any patrons. I send them through, and he picks his favourite new names, and we go from there. So, kicking off season 16, Mr. Davis, who gets 1 point?
Let's do this. 1 point goes to whoever gave us Ned Stradamus, You Bloody Ripper, and Frinky, I Shrunk the Simps.
And that was one Philip J. Hawkins. Congratulations, sir.
He's back.
He is back again. So, yeah, with Treehouse of Horror, as we usually do, we like you to send in 3 titles.
Yes. The Hawk takes flight. Well done, Philip J. Okay, 2 points go to the person behind Ned Dead Redemption, Sherlock Holmes, and Osmosis Burns.
Not bad. That is Fergus Jeffs. Well played, Fergus.
Fergus.
Yes.
All right. But 3 points go to It's Short, It's Sharp, It's Sweet, It Rhymes. Ned's Head, Broad's Dead, Maggie's Fed.
That would be one Brian Hughes. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
On your Hughesy. Sorry, that's...
No, don't do that to him. Don't pigeonhole him like that. Goodness gracious. But Brian,
no, we won't do that.
But Brian Hughes, congratulations, 3 points. You are now atop the leaderboard. So third position, Philip Hawkins, 1 point. Fergus Jeffs in second on 2, and Brian Hughes on 3 points in first position. As I said, just going to be a patron to be part of the Guy Davis New Name Championship. And if you can just get your name on the leaderboard, you go into the wildcard draw at the end of the season.
Everyone's a winner, baby. Well, not everyone, but more than one person's a winner.
That is exactly right. But everyone's a winner by being a 4 Finger Discount patron because they get to banter with you on a daily basis on Facebook.
There is that. And also you, yes, doing lovely banter like, I had my booster shot and now I feel sick.
Oh, my.
I slept in it and now I feel better. So, wow, tune in for the great content. but no, if you are a 4 Finger Discount patron, you just do get lots of interaction with Dan and myself, including, but not limited to, the new Discord channel that we set up, or the whole new Discord network. I don't know exactly how you would describe it.
Well, we've had a few people say, hey, why don't you have a Discord yet? And I was like, I don't really understand how it works. But I looked into it, and we've got it going, the 4 Finger Discount Discord. I've only sent the link out to patrons at the moment, just to sort of, until I get a full understanding of what's going on there. But it's a lot of fun. I went in there today, and I was like, this is great.
It has taken on a life of its own. It is spreading like, COVID, one might say. It's, new little subgroups are popping up. People are conversing about anything and everything, mostly Simpsons stuff, but as you might expect from the 4 Finger Discount Network. But yes, you too can be a part of that.
But we're going to be making that available to all listeners of the show, all fans of 4 Finger Discount. So again, the Facebook group will always be for the patrons. This new Discord will be obviously for all listeners. We want to build a real Simpsons-based community there, and we say Simpsons-based. It starts off being Simpsons-based, and then it just grows as we get to know each other. It just flourishes, and I'm excited to see where it takes us.
You can find like minds and kindred spirits.
Yes, I'll be posting more information about how you can access that in the next week or two. Because you have to get a certain amount of subscribers or something until you can make a custom URL and all that kind of stuff. But I'll have a link for you guys in the next week or two, and we can see 4 Finger Discount flourish on Discord. But for now, Mr. Davis, it is time for the Treehouse of Horror 15 mailbag.
Ooh. The mail is here. Ooh.
All right. First question here comes from one Andrew Kelly. And Andrew Kelly says this: if you were shrunk down, what celebrity's body do you think would be the harshest environment to explore? It's got to be one of the Rolling Stones, right?
You would think so, but I think Keith, who was the infamously most hard living of the Stones, has really sort of cleaned up his act for the last, I want to say, 30 years or so.
Has he really? He's just got a reputation of being drug fucked, but
as I think I've said on the podcast in the past, Keith is still alive because he's like, I never use street drugs. I always use the best heroin. I think that sounds a bit more like Mick, in all honesty. But I'm trying to think of maybe one of the Sex Pistols or something. I mean, Sid Vicious is of course dead, but
who would be worse, someone who's drug fucked or someone who's morbidly obese? Someone who's morbidly obese would have much more room to get around, but
I get the feeling there'd be a lot of
diabetes.
It wouldn't be too good in there. So
No.
yes, to kind of put on my buffalo, but who's a great big fat person? My go-to is normally Rebel Wilson, but she's dumped a whole lot of weight.
What about 1990s John Goodman?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. Who was known for being fat? Who was the famous fat person of the 90s, 80s? Oh, Chris Farley was pretty fat.
Chris had
Chris had drugs and he had everything combined.
Chris had the smorgasbord.
God love him.
God loved Chris Farley, but yeah, that man had low impulse control, shall we say?
He lived high, didn't live long, but he lived very high.
He burned bright,
yeah,
and then he burned out. We love Chris on this show. Rest in peace, Chris. But yeah, I get the feeling being injected into Chris would be like, it'd be like being inside a bouncy castle that had been overinflated. So that's what it would be like.
All right, next question.
That sounds disrespectful to the late Chris Farley. I won't have it, but for the purposes of this question, yes, that's where I would not like to be.
Andrew JP says, referencing the From Hell parody in Four Beheadings and a Funeral, what's your favorite graphic novel, not Marvel or DC, that's been turned into a film or TV series?
That is a good question. And I'm not, because I mean, I was a comics guy when I was a little kid.
Yep.
And then when I was a teenager for a while, and I'd had like maybe 4-year breaks in between. I'm like, I'm putting comics away. I'm not interested. And then, oh, wait a minute. This Daredevil run when I'm about 13 years old seems pretty cool. And then a couple of years later, it's like, comic books are for kids. And then I hit about 18 and read The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen.
I was going to say Watchmen, yeah.
And I think Watchmen might be a DC title, or might have. I'm not 100% sure.
It's definitely under one of the banners, I'm pretty sure. What about Sin City?
I've read some Sin City, but
did you like the films or the film? There was 2, wasn't there?
There were. The first one was okay. The second one was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Really? Okay.
I hated Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, and I'm talking about a movie that had, the luscious French starlet Eva Green emerging from a tub completely naked.
Yeah, I remember that going, oh yeah, oh my.
Okay, were you George Takei or the Kool-Aid Man at the stage? Or were you both?
We're all sitting in the cinema. Oh yeah.
Oh my.
Oh my.
What I read of Sin City wasn't bad. I mean, I don't think I've read too many other comics outside the big 2. I'm not that adventurous.
Watchmen's DC Comics, by the way, apparently.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Andrew JP, I'm sorry I can't answer your question with more rigor. I mean, actually, I take it back.
Yeah.
I do have, because again, I went through another period where I was like, graphic novels, some of them are pretty good. And I've got a few, again, sorry, I forgot we're doing audio here. But yeah, Dan and I are doing the Zoom thing. And I pointed up at the top of my shelf where I've got a few that I bought for a while there, mainly by a guy named Ed Brubaker, but there's a guy named Sean Collins who works on it as well. There were titles like Sleeper, Criminal, and Incognito.
Okay.
They were sort of spy thrillers with a bit of a superhero element or a bit of an action element, and a lot of them were pretty good. Yeah, I did read From Hell, which Andrew JP points out, and he mentioned that we talked about it during Four Beheadings and Funerals. Sort of like it's a bit like that, I guess. We hadn't seen Andrew's question prior to that. Yeah, another good one is the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I don't think was DC. It was turned into a movie that nobody liked.
Sean Connery?
Yeah, I think it was Sean Connery's last movie. Apparently he had such a bad time and I was like, I'm retiring. Fuck this. And
I can imagine him saying exactly that too.
Probably. And he got along so poorly with the director that the director hasn't made another film since. And that was Stephen Norrington, who made Blade, one of the best superhero movies.
Jesus.
Yeah. So...
Blade's not Blade. No, I think of Spawn. Spawn's not owned by DC or Marvel. Well, it wasn't originally, was it?
No, that's what's his name? Todd McFarlane.
McFarlane, yeah, Todd McFarlane. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah. No, I never really sort of got into any of his stuff either.
But what's the Spawn movie like?
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's very, very late '90s sort of new metal soundtrack.
Yep.
very early CGI effect. So it's like, this looks a bit cheesy. Not Man on the Spawn movie.
Okay.
Although I should probably rewatch it. It has some good nostalgia value now.
One final question here. Let's pick one. All right. Reese Roberts. What's he saying? Reese Roberts says,
Reese?
what was a classic science fiction movie that you would want to have as a segment on Treehouse of Horror? He believes Attack of the 50-Foot Woman would be great.
Reese is correct. That would be a good one. I mean, they've done sort of a
We did
bit
Attack
of
of the
riff on
50-Foot
that
eyesores, which was the billboards and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, with Lard Lad and all that. Yeah, so that was kind of a riff on that. But yeah, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman's a good idea.
Classic sci-fi.
Classic sci-fi.
I'm surprised they never did, and they may have since, but they've never done an alien one. And I remember I came up with an idea. It was called Alien Snortopsy, where so Homer's landed the night shift at work, right, at the power plant, because whoever works night shift keep getting killed. So then it gets down to, maybe Lenny gets killed and then Carl gets killed, and it's Homer's turn. And then when Homer's asleep at the power plant, he wakes up and he discovers that there's an alien loose, and that alien would be Mr. Burns, who's turned into an alien due to the radiation.
Okay.
I remember that was like my pitch for like our book. But yeah, Alien Snort. I think like an alien parody would be really cool. Alien Snortopsy. That was my idea. Yeah.
Have they ever done anything on like some 70s stuff, like maybe Logan's Run or Soylent Green?
I don't know.
Logan's Run could be fun. The plot of Logan's Run is the future, and you're not allowed to live past 30 and all that kind of stuff. And
what about Blade Runner?
Well, Blade Runner wouldn't be bad.
Mm.
Or Soylent Green and Homer's just eating people all the time. Homer starts eating people before they're turned into Soylent Green.
Well, I've been watching the Treehouse of Horrors since this review was coming up. So I've been watching all the upcoming Treehouse of Horrors to see whether they're any good. And there's actually some really good ones. There's one where it's like married to the Blob, and Homer's just Homer becomes the Blob. He just keeps eating people. So it's kind of like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, but yes, that is mailbag for Treehouse of Horror 15. Thank you guys for sending in your questions. Don't forget, if you do have a question for us, you can contact us at simpsonsmailbag@gmail.com. And of course, this week, we want to hear from all of you listeners out there your 2-cent story. Your My 2 Cent story, the My 2 Cent segment. It's making a return on next week's show, but it's going to kick off with Guy Davis's cheap ass story on next week's podcast. So that's something to look forward to. Also, next week, we're going to be reviewing the following episode, Mr. Davis. All's Fair and Oven War, which I believe is the one that may have who passed away just recently, got from The Godfather?
Oh, James Caan.
James Caan. Was that the one with James Caan in it? All's Fair and Oven War?
I think it might be, yeah.
I'm just Googling it now. All's Fair and Oven War. Yeah, it does have James Caan. Yeah.
Oh, what timing.
What timing indeed. So next week's episode of Four Finger Discount, we're reviewing episode 2 of season 16, All's Fair in Oven War. So look forward to that. Look forward to Guy Davis's My 2 Cent story, as well as some questions from the mailbag. But don't forget, guys, to continue to please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you do find and listen to this podcast. If you want to support the show and get access to a bunch of exclusives, including early access to this show and all the other shows we do, you can go to patreon.com/fourfingerdiscount. You also find our Tales of Futurama podcast up there. We recently reviewed a big piece of garbage, which was a very, very fantastic episode of Futurama. So you can find all those. I think it's 7 or 8 episodes so far we've done of the show. You can find them all available right now at patreon.com/fourfingerdiscount. But thank you guys for continuing to support the show and listening to us each and every week. For now, Mr. Davis, any final words for those amazing listeners out there?
Standing tall on the wings of my dreams. Now.